Most people spend 40 years working for money and never once ask why the money never seems to work for them. Picture a regular weekday morning. Your alarm goes off. You get up, get dressed, grab something to eat. You're out the door by a certain time because you have to be. Not because you want to be. Because the job starts at a specific hour and the salary depends on you showing up. That's where this begins. Not in a boardroom. Not in a dramatic moment of crisis. Just a regular morning. Somewhere between who you are and who you thought you'd be by now. You're earning. Maybe it's a decent salary. Maybe it's not. But it's coming in every month, and that feels like stability, so you build your life around it. Rent or mortgage. Utilities. Food. The subscriptions you forgot to cancel. The loan repayments that chip away quietly. By the time the important expenses are covered, what's left doesn't feel like much. You're not careless with money. You're actually quite careful. You track things loosely in your head. You don't spend wildly. Some months you even manage to save a small amount. But there's this ceiling you keep bumping into. You earn more, and somehow you still end up in roughly the same place. The number in your account rises slightly, then falls back down, rises slightly, falls back down. Like a tide that never quite comes in. You've tried. That's the thing people don't see from the outside. You've tried cutting back. You've tried spending less on things you enjoy. You've had months of discipline that felt almost punishing. And still, at the end of the year, you look at your savings, and the number is not what effort like that should produce. There's a quiet frustration in that. Not a loud, dramatic feeling. Just a low-level awareness that something isn't adding up. You're doing the right things. You're working hard. You're being responsible. But the math isn't moving in a direction that changes anything fundamental about your situation. No one tells you this part. They tell you to work hard. They tell you to save. But they don't explain why those two things alone rarely lead anywhere different. Here's what most people focus on. How much they earn. Here's what actually matters. How many places that money is coming from. These are not the same thing. And until you see the difference, you will keep doing the same calculation and getting the same result. Because a salary is a single input. One source. One stream. And when your entire financial life depends on a single stream, you're always one disruption away from a very different situation. The problem isn't effort. The problem is structure. And that is a completely different problem to solve. Most people think financial progress is a speed problem. If I just earn more, things will improve. But what actually holds most people in place is a design problem. Their money only moves in one direction. In then out. Month after month. The cycle runs perfectly and produces nothing additional. Nothing that grows while they sleep. Nothing that compounds. Nothing that builds. The salary is not the trap. The trap is treating the salary as the entire plan. A few years ago, someone you probably wouldn't notice talked about buying a small property. Not a mansion. Not some complicated investment strategy. A modest flat in a mid-sized city. He wasn't rich. He used savings he had built carefully over a few years, got a mortgage for the rest, and rented the property out. The rent covered most of the mortgage. He paid a small difference from his own pocket. He didn't talk about it at work. He didn't post about it. He just quietly held something that was slowly becoming his. That was it. No special contacts. No inherited wealth. No insider knowledge. Just a decision to put money into something that could return money back. That story planted a question. Not an answer yet. Just a question. What if money could be working somewhere while you were at work doing something else? That question leads to a slow, unglamorous education. You start reading. Not the motivational stuff. The actual mechanics. How rental income works. What yield means. How interest interacts with time. What it means for an asset to appreciate. You learn that money has two modes. Spending mode and working mode. Most people only ever use one. You start to understand why. You learn that the people who seem to accumulate wealth quietly aren't necessarily smarter or luckier. They've just arranged things differently. They have money doing work in the background, while they do work in the foreground. You don't leap. You start small. Really small. Maybe it's not property at first. Maybe it's an index fund with a modest monthly contribution. Or a high-interest savings account that at least keeps pace with something. The specifics matter less than the principle. You find somewhere for money to go that isn't just out the door. You hesitate. Of course you hesitate. Because this money feels important. It's the small buffer between you and a stressful month. Committing it to something that isn't immediately accessible feels uncomfortable. But you do it. A small amount. On a schedule. And then you leave it. What's at stake isn't dramatic, but it's real. It's time. It's the mental energy of watching something uncertain. It's accepting that you've moved money out of your immediate control and into something that operates on a longer timeline than your monthly salary cycle. That discomfort is real. It doesn't fully go away, but you sit with it. Months pass. You check. The number is slightly higher than what you put in. Not life-changing. Not worth calling anyone about. But it's different from the pattern you've always known. Usually money goes in, money goes out, you start again. This time, something went in, and the number went up without you doing anything additional. That's a small thing. And it matters. You learn that maintaining anything outside your salary requires attention. There are things you didn't anticipate. A repair. A month where returns were flat or slightly negative. A decision that in hindsight wasn't optimal. These are not failures. They are the actual texture of the process. Every person who has built anything has these moments. The difference is they stay in the process anyway. You adjust. You learn. You continue. 2 years in, the picture looks different. Not dramatically, but measurably. Your savings are higher than they've ever been. You have an additional small income stream. Maybe not enough to replace anything yet, but enough to cover a bill. Enough to feel like the structure of your financial life has one more pillar. Your salary is still there, but it's not the only thing anymore. Here is something that takes time to fully understand. Growth doesn't happen in moments. It happens in the space between moments. When you're not looking. When you're asleep. When you're at work earning your salary. Compound interest is not a trick or a hack. It's just what happens when something is allowed to grow without being interrupted. The longer the runway, the more powerful the effect. The problem is that most people never give it a long enough runway because they need the money for something else before the compounding has time to work. Patience isn't passive. Patience is a strategy. You take the returns and reinvest them. You don't upgrade your lifestyle the moment you have slightly more. You put the additional money back into the thing that's generating it. Then you look for a second opportunity. Something slightly larger. Something that requires more research, more analysis, more thought. You don't rush it. But you don't stop either. Something changes that you didn't expect. It's not the money itself. It's how you think about decisions. You start asking different questions before you spend. Not can I afford this, but what else could this do? You start looking at expenses differently. At time differently. At risk differently. You are not the same person who used to bump against that ceiling every month. Not because your salary changed. Because your approach changed. Over time you identify a larger opportunity. A property. Or a significant position in something that requires more capital, more complexity, more due diligence. You spend time on it before you spend money on it. You run numbers. You ask harder questions. You sit with the uncertainty longer before making a move. When you act, it's not from impulse. It's from understanding. At scale, the game changes. It's no longer about individual decisions. It's about systems. It's about what you've built that continues operating without your constant involvement. A salary requires your presence every day. A system doesn't. That's the difference between working for money and having money work. Systems aren't automatic. You build them. You maintain them. but they have a fundamentally different relationship with your time than a job does. Today, the picture looks like this. A salary that covers your life. An investment portfolio that has grown consistently. A rental income that contributes monthly. A savings rate that would have seemed impossible when this started. No single number is extraordinary, but combined, they represent something the salary alone could never have built. You didn't win anything. You built something. Slowly, quietly, without anyone watching. You don't talk about this at work. You don't post about it. There's nothing to prove and no performance to give. The work is in the numbers, in the decisions, in the patience. Not in the conversation. The process is enough. You think now in terms of decades, not months. You optimize for tax efficiency, for diversification, for the difference between assets that grow and assets that generate income, and how to hold both. You think about what you're building for. Not just the number, but the shape of a life where your time is gradually becoming more yours. That's the shift that took longest to arrive. Early on, you were thinking about money. Later, you started thinking about time. About what it means to have built something that doesn't require you to show up or it stops. This is not a story about getting rich. It's a story about getting out of a single dependency. The salary is not the enemy. The salary is often the starting point. But a life built entirely on one stream of income is a life lived permanently at the edge of something you cannot control. One decision by someone else, and the whole structure changes. The people who quietly build stability don't do it by earning more than everyone else. They do it by building more than one place for money to exist and grow. They do it early. They do it slowly. And then they do it for a long time. That's not luck. That's structure. And structure is something anyone can learn to build.